Hey guys, welcome to another episode of All Bass Creations Effects Tutorials, Demos, and Review. Today we have a wonderful comparison between different compression units and just how they can overall improve your sound. These are some of my favorite units right here. And you actually got to hear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ones, right? You only had one analog in there, and that's the Empress. The Empress is an amazing pedal, and I have to say that is my personal favorite compressor. Like, immediately when I started playing, I was like, oh, this is it. This is pretty much everything you need. Started to start right off the back with that, but it's one of the more pricier ones over here. But we'll go there and then we'll go straight to the one that's the most cost effective. We don't do cheap because we like quality, right? And make sure y'all hit that subscribe button for me. Hit that like button. I definitely appreciate y'all support. Make sure you comment and let me know which ones are your favorite in there, and if you have any questions, as well as reviews of all these will be available soon. I already did a review of the MS60B Plus and the Spectra Comp if you want to check those out. So, and the Zoom B6, I already did a thing on that, and I did all the compressors on the Zoom B6, which is all the ones that are pretty much Zoom has out right now. So if you want to check out those, you can check out that video. But we also have up the Sound Audio Atlas, which is incredibly flexible. And, it seems at first it can kind of be a little overwhelming if you don't know how to use the software, or if you're not familiar with using plugins. It definitely can be a little bit overwhelming with the options. But if you know what you're doing, those options definitely help, and it gives you a ton of flexibility that none of these other pedals have in terms of compression. But the UA Max is an amazing pedal itself too. UA is what's that? Universal Audio. Their plugins have been amazing for years, but this is actually 3 of their compressions. It's a dynamic compressor. It's a optical. What's this? LA2A, right? And which is a nice tube, type sound. And then you have effect type sound in the 1176 compressor / limiter type thing. So you're getting quite a nice sound out of it. Plus, you get a 610 tube preamp emulation in there as well, which allows you to warm things up a lot. Or if you wanted to overdrive the unit or distort the unit, you can have that option as well, with the big red button there. So we also have up I just threw in, so I said I have the MS60B Plus on there, which is the new multi-stomp pedal for bass. But we also have the Zoom B6, which we'll be using the 160 compressor on there, which is the DBX 160A emulation, and a Limit 76 is what the effect's called on here, but it's 1176 style compressor as well. So we actually will be using quite a few 1176 compressors and LA2A style compressors, pretty much, or rack compressors. Pretty much rack compressors, studio stuff. But all of these sound great, and the Empress is a FET compressor, but it sounds so creamy and warm, and you can just turn it on and just turn the knob. Look, that's all you gotta do is have these knobs. If you turn the knobs like this, it's crazy. I don't know if y'all can see that, but we'll talk about it in a second. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's back up. So Bam. What you heard first was my bass dry. So that's just my bass dry. Then we also have, so on the MS60B Plus, I'm sure you can't see that screen very well, but I have the same 160 compressor and limit 76 effect on the MS60B. That's on the Zoom B6. Only difference is the Zoom B6 has more processing power than the MS60B. So these effects on the Zoom B6 are a higher quality. So you're actually getting to hear two tiers of multi effects in terms of quality and what the difference is, because sometimes you'll see the same effects on units, but it's different quality because of the sample rate as well as the bit and all that other stuff that you guys may not be worrying about. So, but you know, technical way of saying that basically the MS60B Plus is going to give you pretty much the same effects as the Zoom B6, just scaled down quality wise. Let's rock and roll. Oh, and just for clarity, I'm using the 160 compressor and the limit 76 together. Um, and these will be in a setting, all my MS60B Plus settings, as well as all my Zoom B6 settings, and my Atlas compressor settings will all be for sale. I'll be making a bunch of different patches. I'm also going to be making some for the Spectra Comp. You know, I already have one that I use all the time, but I'll be making a few more just to make it a little more versatile for you guys. But I'm going to have packs for all this stuff as well as IRs, you know, with the, you know, of course, using things like the RE320 and Audix D6, you know, things like that, some 57, all that good stuff, running into a Neve 1073 preamp, all that good stuff. And I'm going to do something with the color box as well, because I actually love how the color box sounds as well. But we'll talk about that. All right, here we go. So, yeah, that works, you know, for whatever occasion. And pretty much I just have the 160 running into the limiter, you know, and just have the limiter, if it gets above something, it brings it back down, and the overall general compression is being done by the 160. And I pretty much have made similar settings on all of these, get me close to a similar sound. But these are different types of compressors, so this is a good time to stop and talk about that too. So the Spectra Comp is actually a multi-band compressor, a three-band multi-band compressor in particular. But so it splits up. It compresses it compresses the bass, the mids, and the treble separately. All three of them separately, and you can mix between how much you want of each one, and you have so many options through the app when you hook it up. So it definitely has it's very flexible. To be so small, look how small it is. It's the same size as a Tone X1 or the EHX Pico pedals. But you hook that to your app or your computer, and you can build your own custom settings, as well as you can beam in other artist settings, i.e. the bass niggas. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have mine available for you guys, of course. On my site, I'm gonna have all this stuff available, and it's gonna be at a reasonable price, compared to some of the other ones I've seen. So, let's check out a little bit of that though. Sorry about that, guys. I was actually running two compressors at once. Right there. Let me do that again. Here's the Spectra Comp by itself. So, the Spectra Comp is definitely a nice, sweet little pedal there. And, the fact that you can literally, excuse me, you can literally just beam in new effects and things like that, and you're not really worried about, even though it's one knob, you can actually go in and assign like three 3 different things to that one knob, you can have a few parameters that one knob controls all at once, which is very useful. So let's move on to the Atlas. Atlas is actually has a lot of compressors in it, and it has an expander and just it has rack compressors, pedal compressors, limiters, all that stuff, tube ones and FET. But I don't know or FET, if you don't know. I just say FET. That's just me. Yeah. But you'll find pretty much any type of compressor you'll need in there. It's a great like little Swiss Army knife. If you're one of those type of people that has the ultimate amount of versatility, that's gonna be this joint for sure. Not even a question. It has an amazing amount of flexibility, but I'm gonna have to still debating about how I'm gonna do the review for that because there's so much stuff to go through. Like it's a lot of stuff in the app, and if you guys don't understand the terms like threshold, attack, release, and things like that, then it may get a little like too wordy, I guess, or just like using terminology that people might not be familiar with, because compression isn't always the first thing on everybody's mind, but it is literally. These compressors, you can literally just take these compressors into a gig and you can run straight into the board. You can use them as running straight into your amp if you wanted to. If you got active EQ on your bass, you can run these amps straight into your power amp in. To be honest, if you wanted to skip your preamp and just get the actual sound of your bass, and these actually have EQ settings in them. So like this Atlas, you can actually have 2 EQs stacked at the end of your chain or the beginning. You got 3 or 4 different options of where you can put the EQ with this pedal. You also have 3 different types of EQ. You got the 1176 compressor, that's under the studio. You got the optical LA 2A, which is more of a tube sound to it. More warmer sound to it. And then you got the dual, which is another multi-band compressor, but it's just 2 bands, bass and treble. And, or bass, you pretty much can split it somewhere around, 100, somewhere around there, 150, and manipulate it like that. That way your low end can have one type of compression and everything else can have a different type of compression, instead of just having a full band where everything gets compressed the same way. Excuse me. So I thought that was pretty cool, along with the blend. Now, this is where we get into the blend knobs. This is where these 3 right here really shine in terms of compression. They allow you to keep your dry signal in there too, which means you can do like really nice stuff like really squashed compression, but then you can have only have 30% of that and then like 70% of your dry sound. So you're still getting that nice punch in there, but you're still getting a full range of dynamics from your instrument while you're not missing out on the nuances that compressing things hard kind of bring out in your sound. And you can kind of mitigate it. You can put, 70% of the super compressed sound and 30% of the, dry sound or whatever, And this allows you also a lot of routing options. These 2 have great routing options, but this one in particular, they both stereo as well, which is amazing. Stereo in, stereo out on both of these. The MS60B Plus is mono in, but stereo out, so you can run stereo out of there at least. The MS70 CDR also has compressors in there as well, but the best ones is the 160 and the 1176, but the 160 is in the MS70 CDR as well. Plus, But Spectre Comp, bam, that was that. Yeah, so let's hear a little bit of this. So you can run 2 compressors simultaneously with these 2. with these two units. That's what make these really like flexible. They both have apps as well. Move this over. Um, this one app is way more. The Atlas app is way more extensive, and the UA Max one is a little more basic. You pretty much got to do most things on the pedal, and they, in the app you pretty much can control the EQ of the preamp. And if you want to side chain the bass frequencies, meaning do you want to like filter out some of the bass frequencies so the compressor doesn't hit so hard all the time based on all the extra bass frequencies coming through because it's a bass. So it compress a little bit more evenly across the instrument versus like really squashing the bass notes and then not even touching the highs, So, or the mid range, So, but here's one of my settings. I'm gonna go through a few of my different settings, and you can use this Atlas as a straight up EQ pedal. Like it's got a parametric EQ and a graphic EQ in there in the app. So you can literally, even if you didn't want to use it as a compressor, excuse me, or you wanted to use it as a multi-function type of pedal, it's also an EQ, and you can get overdrive and fuzz and different things by like simply running, the compressors into each other in series. You can run them in parallel, and you got options. You can also choose your routing options in the UA app as well, UA control app. But these two are definitely super versatile super preamps, compressors, that are amazing. So here is my first preset on the Atlas. Don't forget to hit that subscribe, like, and share. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. And, share with one of your bass friends. Don't leave them out there without the bass niggas help. I'm here to help. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead and share the wealth. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. So as you can hear, I definitely have a bit of EQ on that as well. So it's like it brings out a little bit of the clarity. I've done it's not only compressing, it's adding some tone shaping as well. So it's literally like a pedal you can literally just take by itself, and you got your EQ and compression all right there, preset ready to go. All you got to do is turn it on, and you can run in stereo. So, but here is, and that was an 1176. I'm trying to remember what that one was. That was an optical compressor running into an 1176, I believe. This is just 1176 by itself. So the main difference between those two settings is one of them, like I said, besides it's one. The first one is two different compressors running into each other, one running into the other, and then the second sound you heard was actually just one compressor by itself, the 1176. So as you can see, just running two of them like adds a little bit of warmth, a little extra saturation. You can even push that to being overdriven, and that creates a sound as well. But and here is another. This is 1176 running into 1176. So plenty of tone there, like that joint's tough. Even let me see. I even have just an EQ setting on here as well. So just very subtle, extra little EQ on there, just subtle. Um, but but that joint's fire. Now, this is where the hard part comes in because you got different price ranges, right? So, um, you got the MS60B that's coming in around 140, the TC Electronic Spectracomp, which is coming around like 119. Find them used for about $80, somewhere around there. You got the Atlas coming in at about 225, something like that, and the UA Max is around 350, I believe. So it's a quite pricey little pedal. And the Empress is about $300 too. So it's about around that price range as well. The Zoom B6 is $500, but it's in a complete unit. So it's not just the compressors, it's everything, the entire unit at a really great quality as well. And a lot of flexibility with, having extra foot switches, all that good stuff. So, you can add an EQ and all that stuff, same stuff. Anything you could do with these individual units, well, not anything. Let me not go that far, but some things like running two compressors or different compressors into other compressors, like there's an optical compressor on here. You can run that into 1176 emulation on here. Zoom did a really good job with the emulation, so, they're definitely worth checking out. But let's keep going with the UA Max. This joint's fire. All these are fire. Like, you can't really go wrong with any of them. It's just about what sound you like, first off, and how much work you want to have to do to get that sound, and then how much flexibility you need to have, and how many sounds you need. Because everybody don't need a million sounds. Some people only need one compressor setting, versus other people might need like 10 different compressor settings. So it just depends on your needs. But so let's start with the 1176 compressor on here. And I actually have that running I have them set up to run separately, but I have them set up where they can run together as well and sound good. So we're here all three of those. Here's my bass dry. All right, let's add the compressor. So you can you can use them like a multi effects pedal. In a lot of cases, especially something like this, UA Max is pretty much a preamp, two compressors, and an EQ section because you can go into the app and do the EQing, and it also has the ability to side change frequencies as well as you can change the routing options. You got two ins and two outs on the back of here, and one bonus to the UA Max is you can connect through Bluetooth through into your to the UA control app versus the Atlas compressor. You have to have a hardwired Atlas. The Spectra comp allows you to beam in effects, but you have to, in order to do like all the little tweaking of like your custom settings, you have to plug it in. So that has to be plugged in. The Zoom MS60B Plus and and the Zoom B6 both have, well, no, MS60B Plus has to be plugged in USB if you want to use the app. The Empress doesn't have an app. The Zoom B6 has to be plugged in via USB to use it, to edit it through the computer. But to use the app, you also have to buy an extra $40 dongle, like Bluetooth dongle that has to go in the back, which I have and I use. And I will say it is worth the extra money. You know, some units, they didn't include it to save the money. You know, but you can take that same one and you can use it like I use a Zoom Live Live Track L12 mixer recorder. So I can take that same Bluetooth dongle and throw it back there and use it as that for that one as well to control that unit. So that is a little bonus. You know, they didn't add it into the price, but if you want it, you can still have it. And not only that, but if you get it and you into the Zoom ecosystem, like say you're using one of the new H5 or H6s or H8 or whatever they on, or one of these live track mixers, you can use that dongle for that as well. So, you know, they all have their own trade-offs, you know. But, you know, the UA Max one has a nice texture when it's overdriven, as well as the Atlas does sound good when it's done as well. But, you know, you have to do all that stuff in the app. And like I said, even with the app, they kept it very simple with the UA Max. Like, they don't give you a ton of options. It's just, like I said, how you want to route it. EQ, pretty much, for the preamp section. If you're not using the preamp section, and you can use the EQ separately from the preamp, you just would turn it on, just turn it all the way to the left and just turn it just a little bit to its right pass off. And that should be just the EQ. And if you keep going, then it starts to kick in the preamp. Okay? So, what else? The ratio, you know, you have more flexibility with the ratios on the Atlas than the UA Max as well. You have more flexibility with everything, literally, with the Atlas, including custom ranges to the knobs. You don't have to use a full spectrum of the range, you know, for threshold or whatever. You know, you can set a minimum and a maximum, and, you know, you can set up a ton of just, it's a lot of options. You know, it can be overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing. But like I said, if you just use the pedal, what's on the pedal, like, you know, looking at it, you could definitely do it that way, and it's a little simpler. Airplane, sorry guys. But, all right. So that's the UA Max. And here is the Empress, the amazing Empress. Now, this one I can't. Once I heard it, I couldn't live without it. I said, no, this is the compressor I have to use on everything. It's that sauce on everything, right? You know? But let's hear it. Let's hear it. Here's my bass dry. Just kicked it on. Straight up analog deliciousness. This joint right here is just, you could take this to the gig and nobody's gonna complain, dog. Like you could just take just that, bro. You don't need no other preamps or nothing, because you can they even included a tone color on it, which I love the way I love the way the preset EQs are, as well as you can open up the back, and if you don't want to have it do the harmonic, like the overtone, like that. This it's like a little bit of harmonic overdrive, just a little bit of just tonality on it. You know, they put on the tone color, but you can just switch that off and just use the EQ curves. So that's a nice feature, but I actually like the way it colors the sound. Right now, I got it in the transparent settings. You know, I got the attack and release at 12 o'clock, right? The input, I got that. So it pretty much on my heavier notes where I usually put it, right? Let's see. I pretty much want my low notes to be around that 8 or 9, you know, mark there. Around this way, 8 to 10. And, you know, output is around 12, so that's probably, you know, just not really boosting it, but you can boost it, you know, by going further up. I also have the mix set around 11 o'clock on here. So it's like I said, about 60 to 70% dry signal with that overly compressed 10.1 ratio, right? And then I actually am not using the sidechain high pass filter, but it is very useful when you want to keep it very transparent. Like if I'm not trying to have a squash sound mixed in there, but you know, so you get this sound pretty much. And say you need a boost in the upper mids, you know, for, you know, your finger style or something. You can switch it to the other side of it. So when it's to the left of the tone color switch, it's a cut around 500 hertz, and when it's around on the opposite side, on the right side, all the way to the right, it's a boost around, I think it's 2.3 kilohertz or 2.5 kilohertz, somewhere around there. And when it's in the middle, it's off. So very simple to operate, very simple to find your tone. You know, if you want a very transparent sound, you can easily just change that ratio down to 2.1. And if you want like that middle of where I am and where, you know, that is, then, you know, that's also an option. So give you guys a quick taste of just the ratios. So as you can see, the ratio can make all the difference. So I would suggest if you want to go with all compressed sound, like go around the 2. And if you want a nice like sound that's going to really cut, like you try to make sure your sound going to sit nice in that mix, put it to the tone color to the left, make that 500 cut, and put that 10 to 1 back on there. So absolutely just destruction. Mind you, I'm not running nothing else. Like I'm just running my bass and these compressors. And as you can see, a lot of times when people are doing compression videos, they're not really showing you how these things really can change the tone of your bass. I'm gonna run through them all just like I did in the beginning, but when you start adding some of the extra features that a lot of these pedals have nowadays, they not just compressors. Like they're compressors, they change the tone, like they shape the tone. They, if they're analog, then that analog goodness get on there. If they're digital, then that I'm not even gonna say cold. They're not even cold no more. Like the digital ones is pretty warm. Like so, here's the Empress. Here is the Max. Let me take this distortion out of here real quick, guys. All right. Atlas. Spectracomp. Spectracomp. And MS60B. And the Zoom B6. So, and that's not even including if I like added on a DI type or something on the Zoom B6, that's not really fair. But they have like a Noble emulation on the DI type, a red, ready, or a red DI, whatever you want to call it. Then they have like a vintage console, which is pretty much probably like a Neve 1073, just a mic preamp flat. And then they have the solid state 2, which is a Neve DI box, but I didn't add any of that stuff on there. I know you're like, why you tell me you ain't even going to? Nah, but because a lot of people don't know that's on there. Like, they don't know that the Zoom B6 has a noble emulation in the DI type. It's number one, tube number one. And the red DI, the big red box, that's number two. Then you got a studio console, pretty vintage console. That's solid state one, and solid state two is the Neve DI active DI box that is highly, amazing, highly used throughout the industry. But yeah, so getting to the Zoom B6, what you just heard. I'm actually running two different compressors there. So here's the 160 comp by itself, and this is running just a 2:1 ratio. And here's the Limit 176. And mind you, you can always, let me see, we go back here 1 second. You got different compressors on this MS Zoom B6 as well. See another good one. They got the Op compressor, which is pretty much the same thing as the other ones. Optical compressor. The Black Op compressor, which is one I like as well. So, and you also have this, where's the other one I like on here? It's the Glam Comp. I like this one as well. But they also have a multi-band one, which is like the EBS compressor. I don't like that emulation on here. But these, I'm just covering a few that I like on the Zoom B6 as well. One thing I love about this Glam one, it has a dry-wet mix on it. So I can have my dry signal still coming through, like we talked about before, have a super compressed sound, and have more of the dry in the mix. And they have independent volumes as well, so I can have the compress coming through like that and have the like this. It also has a shape which does the more you the further you turn it up, the more it scoops the sound. So just turned it down a bit. Let me turn the shape off. Well, I'm gonna turn it on 2. Turn it on 2. So, you know, different compressors or different units give you different options. So if you're going with something like a multi-effects unit, it's something you may want to factor in. What does the compressor section look like on it? Does it have options? Does it have compressors that not only compress, do they shape the sound? Do they because these are things that can save you slots on multi effects. If you got a compressor that's going to shape your sound, compress it, and give you a dry wet mix, that's a ton of that saves you processing power. You just use that instead of using a compressor, EQ, this, that gets to be redundant if you can do it all in one. So I like this glam comp on here as well as I like that black op on there. But my favorite on the Zoom stuff is going to be the 160 comp and the Limit 76, which is a 1176 style compressor. And on the Spectra comp, my favorite setting, out of the settings that are available to you through the app, would be it's the default joint. The same. I was hoping it would be closer to this, but actually my setting is closer to this. So like I said, my setting, all that stuff's gonna be available. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. I definitely appreciate y'all participating. A little bit more, and yeah. And make sure y'all hit that Cash App or that Super Thanks if this is useful to you. Don't leave me hanging. Hey, I take $1, $2, all that. It worked. So, overall, okay, for me, and y'all can let me know what y'all favorites are in order down bottom. So I got to do a few different categories. So I'm gonna exclude the multi-effects units from this because that's not really. I guess for the multi-effects units, you got to hear what that sound like. So if you don't want to buy a dedicated pedal just for that, go with multi-effects units. They'll have them on there. But if you do want to go with separate pedals between the Spectra Comp is going to be the cheapest out of these four right here. So you got the Spectra Comp, Atlas, the Max, and the Empress. So the Spectra Comp is the cheapest, then the Atlas, then the Empress, and then the Max, I believe. Let me check that out real quick. Matter of fact, that ain't gonna take me but a second. Because it's what it is, guys, is so yeah, the Empress is $274. That's $274. You can get the UA, the Universal Audio 1176 studio compressor. That's around $200, but that's just 1176, and you can run that in dual, and you can run two of those into all that good stuff in that pedal as well as they have a LA 2A version of that as well. But the Max here is both of those plus the dynamic, plus you can add them together, and you just got a lot more control with this. And a lot more flexibility, stereo in and out, and all that good stuff. But the Empress is the best one, analog or not. It just sounds the best to me. Right off of the back, it's going to be $274, but you don't actually, depending on what type of player you are, you can get that, and you don't even need a preamp. Like you don't. It just sounds so good. And definitely don't run that Empress into no digital. Run that joint as close to going straight into whatever you record into or whatever, so it can get that analog goodness from that joint. Don't destroy it by running it through a bunch of multi-effects and everything else. That joint needs to be at the end because it's the texture and the creaminess. You can put a digital one in the beginning. Like you can put any old digital compressor in the beginning. Or you can get a multi-stomp and use one of those in there in the beginning. But you finish the sound off with that Empress, and it's fire. As a matter of fact, you put a preamp in front of that Empress, and leave that tone color on, and it's even more fire. Like that's even it's just trust me. I'm gonna do a separate video with that when I do the review. And this one, as you guys see, I didn't use any preamps. I just used just my bass and EQ on my bass so you guys can hear what those compressors were doing by themselves. And I didn't go through every setting on the compressor. Trust me, these compressors have, especially these two, Atlas and the Max, have a ton more sounds. But the Empress has a lot more sounds as well, you know. But so does the Spectracomp. But then again, the Zoom units got a bunch of different compressors, as you can hear. So it's like they're all very flexible units. Like everything these days with technology, almost everything is super flexible. But you gotta pick what you like, what sound you like. So I tried to give you guys two different settings. Pretty much my primary slap and pop setting, then my primary finger and chordal setting type thing. So yeah, you guys can make a decision from there. But let me know which one is your favorite in the comment. Which one, if you only could buy one, which one you buying? And if you can buy two, which two you buying? And if you could buy three, and then you could buy four, and then you, nah, but yeah, these joints, I can't say any of them are bad. You can't even, you can literally, with any of these, you'll be fine. Like, but if you want something that's gonna give you that creamy texture that is gonna be put you over the top, like in terms of your tone, it's gonna be the Empress. The UA Max is the most versatile one. Like, so if you want something that's not just gonna work for bass, I mean the Empress, I wouldn't doubt it if I'm gonna try it on some different stuff. But the Atlas and the Max are actually meant for different things, you know, not just bass. They're not bass specific compressors. They are really studio compressors, you know, plugins for real that they put in the pedal. That's pretty much what they are. And, you know, same thing with the Spectracomp. You know, it's just the Spectracomp is not even different types of compressors. For real, it's just one multi-band compressor with a ton of flexible options with it. So, you know, if you really want to be able to get in detail with your sound and compression, like, trust me, a compressor is one of the best investments that you can make in it. And, like, it can be the difference between you know what I'm saying, really being heard and you being you and people listening to you. Like being able to recall what you did because they could clearly hear it. You know, it wasn't getting lost when you went into your upper register because your bottom register was, you know, so much louder. It literally allows you to cut through in the mix a lot more. So trust me, you can't go wrong with these, any of these. So try them out and let me know which one, like I said, you like the most. Make sure you check out my music. You can hear these different compressors and all these tips and tricks in action on my album and stuff. Or I have two different things. I have a few singles out and I have an album out called All Bass Creations. But then I also have some singles I put out last year. And you can find all of them at allbasscreations.bandcamp. You know, go check them out. You can also stream them on all different platforms, all that different stuff. But if you really want to support me, go check them out at the Bandcamp, allbasscreations.bandcamp.com. And if you want to find me on all social media, at the Bass Negus, Negus, come find me. I'll be there and I'll be waiting for you. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. You know, I need y'all to subscribe. I need you to hit the like button. And I need you to share it. And I'll catch you guys next time. All right. Peace.